Okay, recording in progress. Welcome, everyone, to the July 5th, 2022 meeting of the Village of Rhinebeck Planning Board. First item on the agenda is Rachel Cavell, 9 Livingston Street, coming back after they received approval for the variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Good evening, Rachel.
Good evening.
So is everyone familiar with
Well, we're waiting for, we are waiting for the architect though,
oh,
right? Warren is not here yet. He's on his way, I imagine, any minute.
well, we need Warren for both of these.
Right. He said he's coming.
Okay. Brian, do you have the
I do.
Rachel?
I mean,
We can certain,
we can start without him. I just know that he's planning on being here.
Remember, Rachel wants to put a bump out for a bathroom on the first floor on the right east side of the house in the setbacks of the existing addition that was already in the setback, and the Board of Appeals approved that. There it is. So they had there's a setback there's a building in the setback on the right side, an extension, and she was adding a little bit more of an extension to put a bathroom in there. And the Zoning Board of Appeals granted the approval, and we gave a 5-0 recommendation for the approval, and they granted it. Does anybody have any questions about it? Did you all get a copy of the ruling? Ryan sent it out. Zoning Board of Appeal.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah.
Can we see what it looks like again? Not from the site plan, but from the street view?
Actually, it's on the right, and you already see that looking from the street, only it's further back from what you're going to see when it's done. That's the front.
correct.
I don't know if there is more.
There it is.
Right, so it's just adding on to that extension.
That's right. Yeah, it's already there. It's adding on to what's already there.
What about the fence on that first view? I didn't see that before. I don't remember talking about that.
We didn't talk about it. That's actually new, but I don't know. Do we need approval for that? Because it's under, we don't need a variance for it because it's within the height. That's a permissible height allowance.
It's gonna be in front of your garage?
It'll be in front, well, in front of this, in front of the studio building. It's not a garage, it's a studio building.
So if you have the fence, where will your parking be?
No, it's at the back of the parking. It's at the back of the lot. It's just so we can keep our dog in. It's just a little bit of a private.
Oh, okay, it's back there. Okay.
Yeah, it's at the very end of our property,
That's a better view.
or the end of the driveway, I mean.
So you don't have a garage anymore.
Well, we never did. It was always a carriage house. And then it was never a garage.
And you can still fit 2 cars in front of the fence?
Oh, we can fit 3 cars in front of the fence.
All right. I don't know if we really need to wait for Warren on this. Seems
No,
pretty
we can begin. We can begin. That's fine. I just knew he was planning on showing, but we can begin.
Yeah, it's hard to see from that from that picture with the fence because the world is flat when you're looking at it. You can't.
It's at, yeah, the driveway is actually pretty long and it's at the end of the driveway, sort of maybe 10 feet in front of the studio building at the
Back
very
up
back
on this side.
in the backyard.
Right, yeah, they're right there.
And it's a wood fence?
Oh, yes, of course.
Just confirming. I can't read the fine print on the screen here.
Does anyone have any questions about it? That's the picture. Does anyone have any questions about?
That looks nice.
We went
Thank
over
you.
this- We went over this, a month or so ago, and we gave our recommendation. Does anyone have any questions about it?
No, I think it looks good.
Thank you.
Suzanne?
We try.
Fine with it. I don't remember it from 2 months ago.
No, you're right. You're right, actually. It was not on the original. The funny thing is it had been on the plans 15 years ago, but we had gotten it approved way back then. And we just never bothered to put it on. And so Warren essentially resuscitated the old fence, but I don't think it was before you the first time we came around. So I guess Warren was planning on mentioning it this time. I hadn't talked to him about it. I actually wasn't even sure we had gotten that far, but he clearly added it. So
The new siding on the bathroom is going to be fiber cement smooth, right?
well, now this is something that Warren would speak to more
5%.
than me.
It says it right in the middle of the picture.
Yeah.
Match existing
Oh, the roofing.
hardy,
No, I was talking about the siding.
smooth, yeah. Match existing hardy, smooth fiber cement clapboard siding, solid.
It does seem every time we approve hardy board smooth, it comes back with the
Body
grain.
board textured.
Yeah, every time, almost every time. It's like they won't make it, or they don't send it to you. You have to buy the one that looks like vinyl siding.
Really?
So we've threatened other ones that if you don't put smooth on them, it'll make you tear it off. Because the textured one doesn't look like wood. It looks like cheap vinyl siding. So at any rate, it's specified smooth. We just want to make sure it comes out smooth.
If it looks like vinyl siding, I'll tear it off myself. I mean,
Okay,
I would be very unhappy about that.
all right. If nobody has any other questions, I'll make a motion to approve as proposed.
I'll second that, Jeff.
All those in favor, roll call vote. Michael Gee,
Aye.
John Clark,
Aye.
Suzanne Hochberg,
Aye.
Jeff Christensen,
Aye.
David Miller, aye. Good luck.
Thank you very much. So Ryan, are you still there?
I am.
I'm sorry about my ignorance. I should know these things since I'm on the zoning board, but is this the last approval that we need before we start the work on the building and on the studio as well?
Yes, so you received final site plan approval tonight.
Okay,
So all you need to do now is to move into the building department phase and submit your building permit application.
thank you very much, everybody.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Good luck, Rachel.
move along. Thank you so.
Live long and prosper. The second item on the agenda is continuing business, the Terrapin Restaurant. Now, Emily's, good evening, Emily is here with us tonight. We had a lot of issues. Ryan sent a lot of things. It's a huge package. So we had the first thing we got two letters today from the CEO. Got a letter, he was out there with the decibel meter. And he said that the sound coming out of the fans is within normal acceptable ranges. So I think that would eliminate our question about the decibel levels, because the CEO said it meets the criteria in the code.
I invite you to come. I can invite you to come sit in my backyard sometime, but okay.
Can you identify which fan it is, Rachel, that's causing the problem?
Yeah, I can certainly identify. It's the big, huge fan that sounds like an airplane revving up to take off. I mean, it may be that it's not a decibel situation. It's not going to be picked up. It is, if you walk by it, you'll hear it. It is literally the loudest thing.
But is
Four
the one
fans,
on the roof or on the one on the side wall?
No, I believe it's on the roof, sort of in the garage, in the parking lot area.
So I
would say
really hate
large-
doing this, but this isn't a public hearing anymore. The public hearing
Oh,
was
I'll stop
closed,
talking. I'll stop talking.
last meeting, so I really hate to
Fine.
do that, but you know, we have to follow procedure.
Go right ahead.
so Josh, do you believe that's the fan you're fixing?
I do. I said that was the old fan.
That was the oldest fan.
And, you know, honestly, it's like they came and they measured it 10 feet from the fan, right in front of the fan, standing in the parking lot, not at the edge of the property. The village code says it has to be under 80 decibels at the edge of the property. He was not. He was 10 feet in front of the fan. Right in front of the fan, it was still well under 80 decibels.
Wall fan?
I'm not even close. And you know, the thing is also, it's like any central air conditioning unit makes just as much noise. In fact, my central air conditioning units make more noise than that fan. I mean, it's a commercial property. We have fans, you know, and they're not breaking any codes. It's like,
You have the letter from the CEO saying that this is okay. So
I agree. I'm just a little frustrated at this point. I'm sorry, David. I
we have-
do wanna move
we have-
forward.
Well, 70 decibels is a pretty, you know, I think our code is very generous, but
Well, but John,
but it meets the code. That's the bottom line.
but that wasn't at the property line. That was 10 feet in front of the fan, probably 50 feet from the property line.
Yeah.
If he moved back to the property line, it would have been well under 70 decibels. He was standing right in front of the fan when he took the reading.
Yeah. Well, it would have been better to take it at the property line, so we know, but I think the point is that it probably meets the code and you're intending to replace the fan that's causing the problem, and we'll see how it is.
Yeah, the one in this picture is see the three fans on the
Yeah,
top? It's the big one.
Okay.
That's the one we're replacing.
the second letter we got today from the CEO has a lot of whereases and ends with the proposed parking agreement between the Church of the Messiah and the Terrapin Restaurant would provide more than the adequate amount of parking spaces subject to the standards set forth in Chapter 1, 2016 off-street parking and loading. So we asked if the number could be verified, and Justin has verified that this would provide enough parking. I guess the next thing, and the reason why Emily is here, is so that we can understand the contract or the draft of the contract between the church and Josh. Emily, did you get a chance to look at that?
So I'm not sure if I have all the same material you do. I apologize if I missed something. What I received was an email outlining the terms of a contract, but I didn't see an actual contract. Is there a draft contract?
That's all I was provided. Emily, what you saw was what I was given.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
that's what we agreed upon, me and Richard.
okay.
And
Well, I mean,
I told him on the phone, we had a phone conversation about that after the email, and said as soon as we get approval, I'll give him the $11,000, and at that point, we'll just have a signed agreement.
okay. I mean, having reviewed it, it looks to me, it's very helpful that we now have the determination from Justin. It seems to me that this meets what the code is trying to achieve, which is to have enough parking, but not too much parking, right? So being able to share parking is a good thing. I think the board should make sure that it's comfortable that these parking spaces are going to meet the needs of the restaurant. There were some limitations in that email as far as the times of day that the spaces would be available. So even though it's the right number of spaces, I think the board should consider whether the spaces are available at the, I think they're available in the evenings, which is, I assume, when the heaviest demand is, but the board should consider that. and also whether people are going to understand that they're allowed to park there, and that that's going to meet people's needs. If the board is satisfied with that, I think the key is just ensuring that those parking spaces remain available. If there's only a short-term contract for them, what happens in a few years? So we need to make sure that that's documented, whether that's a condition of the site plan, condition of a CO. I'm not, we have to just figure out how to document that to make sure those spaces remain available, and that we have an accounting of that.
But we're going to put something in the condition in the site plan approval that if in 2 years something happens, they have to come back to the planning board to talk about parking.
Okay.
Because this happened once before with another restaurant in the village, and the legal people said, well, you didn't draw it up right. They don't have to have the parking. And we lost out on that. So we want to make sure we have that clear. We also did mention that, I don't know, Warren sent some stuff. I didn't get a chance to look at it. We talked about directions or directional signage telling people that there's Terrapin parking in that lot, and how to, Terrapin parking this way or something, or evening parking, pointing people to go drive through the sheer cleaners or come up on the street, by the church, by Rukies, or how we're going to do that to make it clear.
So Chairman Miller, the proposal is to have a sign mounted on the gate of the trash enclosure that you face as you drive into the parking lot. And that will indicate that additional parking is available next door at the Church of the Messiah after 5 p.m. And that seemed to be the best way to alert drivers coming in and looking for parking, that if the parking lot is full, they have another option for evening parking. And that's noted there on the site plan. It's actually been there for a while, but I bubbled it to make it more obvious for you that was the most logical place in my mind to put a sign that would let drivers know that if their parking lot's full, they have another option there.
That causes, though, is if people drive in the parking lot and read the sign, they have to back out of the parking lot if all the places are full. I was thinking that sign makes more sense at the entry rather than at the exit, because when you pull in, you can sort of see whether the lot's full or not. And you just have to sort of back out and turn around rather than have to back through the parking lot.
We can put it at the entry, John. I just think, people drive into a parking lot and they're not looking at signs at that point.
Yeah.
I put it where I thought it would be most visible, but certainly there could be different points of view as to where that would be.
Yeah. I don't know what other people think. I was thinking that would work best at the entry, so that when you pull up, pretty much you can see whether there's spots available. And you'd be able to.
I kind of agree with Warren on this, because I noticed people just pull into the lot and then they look for a spot. And if they're going to pull into the lot regardless, because they're going to look for a spot. And then if they see there's no spots, they'll see that sign right in their face. And then they'll know they'll need to go get a spot at the church. But people do that all the time. They pull in and pull out.
But maybe there should be 2 signs, and also a sign at the church parking lot indicating Terrapin customers can park here. So when they get to the church parking lot, they know exactly what the situation is.
And there are 2 ways in, one through the cleaners and one behind the church. And, I guess they'll have to figure that out for themselves, but there is no hole in the fence.
No.
Walk around the block when they park.
Right.
Now, the other questions that we asked, I see that the county suggested a walkway right there.
Yes.
Parking, someone can roll onto the sidewalk, so that's good.
That's not wide enough for a wheelchair.
It can be made wider.
Yeah, it has to be at least 3 feet for ADA code. I would suggest 4 if you have room between the tree and the wherever planter.
Yeah, we have room for that. Sure.
Yeah.
And then the questions about the back. John had a long list of the dumpster enclosure, and the shed is 5 feet and 5 feet. The refuse area.
I think that needs code myself, but I think the shed is a building. The
Mhm.
fenced areas don't have roofs on them, so I don't think they necessarily need to meet that accessory building standard. But it's nice to see the shed moved off to the proper amount.
And John, did you have any other questions?
So the other one that I had was there's plantings to screen the parking from the street. There's a planting strip there, and Warren put some plants in there, but they don't seem to be the sort of plants that would screen the parking lot. They weren't really defined too carefully. There is a thing up at the top that talks about planting, but the visuals he provided don't show, they show sort of more ground cover type planting rather than 3 or 4 foot planting that would break up the view of the parking lot. So I was,
Brian, there's another sheet that has the landscaping on it.
yeah, I think it costs about a rose of Sharon.
Oh, there you are.
So.
Yeah, so the upper plan of those two is landscaping, and that we added, it's item C there, which is a juniper. Certainly that was on the other sheet again.
Right, yeah, go down a bit, right there, that red bubble, red rectangle.
Well, on that sheet, right, exactly, right. So certainly if you want a different plant material, we can do that.
What's in there? That's
It's a juniper.
oh, one juniper or
No, it's a row of junipers. It's
okay.
yeah,
That's I just
it's
didn't
item
see that
C.
anywhere on the plan.
It's item C up above. There's a list of them, and
C is junipers.
yeah,
Okay.
it's juniper, horizontalis, noscilled, lime glow juniper. It could certainly be something larger.
Yeah, certainly it has to be more than a foot tall.
Mhm.
So junipers should be 3 or 4 feet tall in order to accomplish the goal.
All right, do 3 foot tall juniper. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, it's hard to read these plans digitally, unless they're sort of all together. You sort of scroll around looking for things. So anyway, when I saw that juniper, I horizontalis, it's more like a ground cover than a shrub.
Mhm.
So, the rose of Sharon or a taller juniper would be better.
Yeah, the only concern I have at an entrance to a parking lot is you always have sight distance issues when you're pulling in and out of a parking lot. So something tall can actually be a hazard in many cases.
Yeah, that's why I think if it's 3 to 4 feet tall, 3.5, 3 feet tall, that doesn't get in the way of your sight lines, but it sort of breaks up the view of the cars.
I understand the goal to break up the view of the cars, but if you're sitting down in a car, your sight line's not going to be much higher than that.
Well, 3.5 feet is usually what you use for sight distance corners.
Mhm.
That's the height of a typical person sitting in a car with so they always, on sight distance corners, they always say, it has to be trimmed below 3.5 feet. So if you can get something that's 3 feet,
Sure.
unless you're in maybe, what's his name's MG, you'll probably be able to see over that.
Right.
So,
We can take that change.
Okay.
So where are we? What, are there any other outstanding issues?
Yeah, the only other thing that I had was on the sign itself. It doesn't give anybody a direction, gives an address, and I guess everybody has phones these days that they can plug in an address, but is there some way to describe how to get to that thing without making a 2 foot long sign?
Well, again, that would be the concern is if you're going to give detailed instructions on how to find your way to that parking lot, it's going to be a very large sign.
Yeah, I just say on the other side of this fence or to the north, due north of this property.
I can add something like that. Mhm.
Yeah, whatever people think. And I agree with Suzanne that we should have a sign over on the front part of the church that says, parking here after 5 p.m. for the restaurant so that people know they're in the right spot instead of parking in the dry cleaner or somewhere else.
Okay.
But that's, I think, the end of my list. I would be satisfied as long as when we do any sort of vote for approval, we have conditions on the parking contract to make sure that we cover Emily's
Right.
points.
So Josh, you said something about you wanted to fix the cedar shingles on the
Oh,
building?
yeah, that's the other point.
Yeah, I actually have a contract to fix all of the siding on the restaurant already. It's
Yeah.
being replaced, within a month.
So
I
everything,
didn't know that was even an issue of this.
It is, Josh, you need planning board approval
so you just.
because you're in the historic district.
To put shingles back up that are falling off.
No, all we need to know is that you're doing that. So it's not changing anything at all.
Well, no, it's changing real shingles to polymer shingles.
Polymer shingles,
That's what that contract said.
which was on what contract?
With X
Hold on, Josh.
siding or whatever. The siding company talked about polymer shingles as opposed to real shingles. Exterior Solutions.
I sent you this?
Jackie from Exterior Solutions sent this.
All right. Wait, make that a drop bigger.
I don't,
Demo upper front gable.
Yeah, it says CD Cedar Impressions D 7-inch rough split shake spruce. The name Cedar Impressions sounds like a trade name, so it's definitely worth checking that that's what you're.
See what it
Well, there you
says?
go.
Okay.
There we go. Polymer shingles and shakes. So
well, that's actually, I didn't know. I guess I had my general manager took this quote. I didn't even speak to them about this, but I wanted cedar shakes. I thought that's what we were doing.
yeah,
Well, if you do cedar shakes, then we can approve it because replacement in kind is allowed, but there are prohibition against vinyl materials.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
yeah. No.
Right.
I don't want to do vinyl. I have no intention to do vinyl. That's the first I heard of this. I'm sorry about that. I don't know where that I guess my general manager, I don't know, because he said to me that we were going to put cedar shakes up. I got to speak to him. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know the details of this, but I saw the estimate and I didn't look at it carefully because I thought it was cedar shakes.
Yeah, the language in the Cedar Impressions is they use the word natural a lot.
I
To
saw
imply that it's natural, but
and
if
I
you
saw
look at it,
cedar, and I
it's
saw
a plastic material.
$16,000 and I'm like, that's about right. So I got to figure that out. I'll put up.
better get a new contractor.
Yeah,
So if indeed you're going to do it in cedar shakes, real cedar shakes, then it doesn't have to have planning board review because replacement in kind is permitted under the historic district code.
oh yeah, that's what we're doing.
So as long as you replace materials to make it look exactly like it is or was.
Yeah, no, we have to replace it. I had a painter look at it and said there's no way to paint that anymore.
Yeah, it is getting pretty rough.
Yeah, and it's like it would just blow off if you put a power washer up there. So yeah, we have to replace it with cedar. Absolutely.
All right. Well, if that's the case, we'll make that a condition of the site plan approval and we can move on with this, I think.
So I think we've covered everything. We can have two conditions. One, that the shakes are replacements of cedar. And the second one is that it's made clear that should something happen in 24 months where the deal with the church falls through or changes or something, that you'll be coming back to the planning board to discuss parking.
Okay.
Can I suggest, I don't know what your practice usually is, but you might want to have a short-term condition that before the CO is issued, that you have a copy of the contract with the church.
Okay, that sounds.
Yes, absolutely.
Very reasonable.
Anyone have any more questions?
I think we need two other conditions. One is that the plantings in the area along the south side of the parking be approximately 3 feet tall
Mhm.
and no taller. You know, there's sort of a species of juniper that grows to 3 feet and stops.
Mhm.
And so you don't have to do trimming all the time.
Right.
And secondly, that there's an additional sign placed on the church property,
Mhm.
making sure that people know where they can
Now,
park.
I don't have any control over the church property. If the church says they don't want a sign, I
Well,
mean,
that should be part of your contract.
that they have to have a sign on their property.
Yeah, I mean, that otherwise, people will be parking who knows where on their property, and there'll be no.
I mean, I don't see a problem, but if Richard's like, no, you can't do that, and then what do I do? I mean, I can't make a determination. It's his property. I can't agree to have something put on his property. I don't have that authority.
John, I don't think we want to advertise to the world that there's parking there except to the customers of the Terrapin.
Well, I would say that on the sign.
And
Where would you have it? I like
also as
I
was
would rather that
explained
not be included, honestly. I don't want to have to tell Richard what to do with his property, and I feel like it's sufficient, personally, if it's on my property, because they're only going to be coming to Richard if there's no parking left. So they will be in my lot. They don't have to see it. I mean, we can put on the sign that it's right on the other side of the fence. You know, it's not that hard to go around the block. I mean, I'm sure they'll be able to figure that out. And like you said, anybody's got a phone if they need to Google the Church of Messiah, which they'll be able to see while they're sitting.
Sorry, I don't know why he would object to having a sign that describes basically what you agreed to. One of the things we discussed. All right, let me turn my mic up.
Jeff, it's
Can
not
you
about what he may or may not
can
do.
you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so another thing we discussed in prior meetings specifically about the signs was that it would also note, per your agreement, that this the parking was up until 5 p.m. So people don't think it's just like unlimited parking. I don't know why he would disagree to
I don't know
having
either.
a sign there
I'm
that
not saying that he would, but I want to get this approval, and if all of a sudden he's like, oh, I can't have a sign, which is his right, it is his property, and
I think what John is saying was we're just stating it as a condition. And if you can't satisfy the condition, I guess we can talk again about it, right?
Or they could put it on the front corner of your property as a fallback position.
Put it in front of the bistro. It could be in, front of the bistro with an arrow saying additional Terrapin parking.
I appreciate that. If I can have a fallback, I will certainly ask him. I'm just, I don't know what he's going to say. I don't want to have to come back if he, for some reason, freaks out about a sign on his property. I have no idea. People might be particular about that.
All right, I think it would work probably just as well to put it on the corner of your property. There's a big hedge there. You might have to trim that back so that you don't block a sidewalk or something.
I will ask Richard. I will definitely ask Richard.
Okay. And you work out between you where the best place to put that sign is.
Okay.
I think a sign on at the end of the bistro, saying additional Terrapin parking, additional Terrapin evening parking, something like that.
I would rather have it in his lot, quite honestly. I will ask him. I don't know what he's going to say. That's all. I don't want to speak for him at all. And if he does freak out about it, I'm glad to have that option to put it on the bistro. That makes sense to me.
We can say either one, but whatever you and Richard think is best. Just an additional sign to lead people there. I'm sure you have a lot of customers, but then you'll have a lot of new customers, who aren't repeat customers, who aren't familiar with Rhinebeck at all, and could use a little bit of direction. So are we happy now with the conditions as we've outlined?
I think the condition on the parking agreement should say that it's agreeable to the village planning board's attorney so that she has a chance to review it and okay it. That should be clear.
Okay.
And she knows what needs to be done. And that it would be, if indeed the parking agreement is no longer in place or operational, that the applicant has to come back to the planning board. And the other thing she said about the the certificate of occupancy, that the agreement is in place before the CO.
All right, so we have to get this all down for the minutes. So John, do you want to make the motion and put those, I think it's 4 or 5 conditions?
Hold on, John. I have one question for the board. This additional signage, is it subject to the sign laws of the village?
It's directional signing. It should.
Yeah, it's directional sign. It doesn't need.
So
to
it should be held to the criteria of directional signage as, shown in the code.
Yes, if at all possible, yes.
Do we want examples beyond what Warren has produced as another condition?
No, I think we're okay.
I think
You're
we're all
okay.
right. I think we're all right.
Just want to make sure for the record.
Yes, of course.
So I'm making a motion to approve with 4 conditions as I see them. 1, there's a parking agreement that's been reviewed and acceptable to the village planning board attorney. That'll have a sunset date if it's no longer operational, and we'll have a condition about certificate of occupancy. It has to be in place before certificate of occupancy. So that's number 1. Number 2, that there's the plantings along the front side, the south side of the parking lot will be 3 feet tall rather than 1 feet tall. 3, that there's a sign placed on the north side of the property that points to additional parking on the church parcel, either on the church parcel or at the northwest corner of the restaurant. And 4, that the cedar shakes on the building will be replaced in kind with cedar, natural cedar, and match the detailing on the existing church.
We
And
have,
I don't know whether this would be a condition, but I would like to, for Miranda, who will be listening to this to create the minutes, I think we should also state that the approval is pursuant to the zoning enforcement officer's memo number 22 dated July 5th, 2022, that outlines the acceptable parking that goes along with this review. Secondly, it's pursuant to the code enforcement officer's memo of July 4th, 2022 regarding the Terrapin Restaurant exhaust fan noise, so that we don't hear back in 6 months or a year from now, wait a minute, there's too much parking, or wait a minute, that fan's too loud, and Josh has to go through this whole thing all over again. I think those memos should be referred to in the record.
That's okay with me. So we'll
Thank you.
attach them to the approval motion.
Yes,
we have a second.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all those in-
Jeff, that's Jeff.
Michael Gee,
Aye.
Ron Clark,
Aye.
Suzanne Holtzberg,
Aye.
Jeff Christensen,
Aye.
David Miller, aye. Okay, good luck. We made it. We actually got it done.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right.
Good evening.
Warren.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a discussion item. Darren's here to talk about hot tub.
I am. Can you guys hear me okay? Everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So it was originally a much bigger discussion item, but since a few weeks have gone by, we've toned down our proposal. So it's a little bit smaller of a discussion item, hopefully. But what we had originally contemplated was doing a small above ground pool in the backyard at 73 South Street. And we've just rethought the approach and just rethought the way we'd use the backyard and taken into some consideration some of the comments made at a prior meeting. So we've really toned this down to just simply a store-bought, if you will, a nicer one, but a store-bought hot tub, just a 7-foot diameter round hot tub. So about 40 square feet. And then there's a second thing we'd like to do in the yard, and we're looking for some guidance on that. And that is, we'd like to do just a simple, almost fully round outdoor shower enclosure. So we'd have an element where we could come home from a long hike and take an outdoor shower and then go in the hot tub type thing, which would substitute for the need for a pool in our minds. And
They're not next to each other. Is there a reason?
they're
for
fairly next to each other. They're sort of, catty corner to one another. The idea was just introduce two circular elements into the yard because there's just so much square there between the shed and the adjacent garage and the house, and just the way patios tend to lay out, everything tends to be fairly rectangular. So we thought it'd be interesting to bring some softness, some round elements. And much of what we did inside the house is also round. We have very rounded sheetrock corners and rounded edges to our cabinetry. So it was sort of pulling out an element from the interior. And we weren't quite sure how to even propose the outdoor shower to the building inspector. We did submit a building permit application for the hot tub just to start this process. But the shower enclosure, it's a little unclear whether it would be a fence or it would be, I know it would be a structure one way or the other, but how the board would look at that and, what the permit would be for that. Certainly something that would be easily removable. And as with the hot tub and the shower just sort of sit on the ground. And incidentally, both completely meet all setback requirements. And in terms of coverage, we're just over half of what the lot coverage is allowed in the zone. And of course, nothing would be visible from the roadway or the adjacent properties.
I think these qualify as a structure based on our code, and they're accessory structures. They're within the setbacks. But I think they, and I'm not the final say in this, but it seems like they would need a building permit. We did an approval for another hot tub on Livingston Street, as I remember. So, and if you're doing the hot tub, you might as well do the shower on the same permit.
Fair enough.
And I ran by yesterday and I saw you planted evergreens in front of the air conditioners. I thank you for that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And one of them, by the way, is behind the fence too. It was just hard to locate those other two behind the fence, but we had always planned to put those skip laurels in, which will very quickly grow and hide them completely.
And that vine, is that vine growing on the concrete wall an evergreen?
It's an evergreen. It's an Akebia vine. And since the last meeting, we did actually add a third. And then I did put some structure there for it to grow on, which I'll attach better to the wall with some standoff. So it looks a little bit more elegant while that grows in. But I don't know if you've noticed, but it's, its runners are already up to 5 feet and it's starting to fill in. So having been in the ground for a couple of weeks now, it's really starting to pick up.
There are like tubes around it. Is that?
We did that because we didn't want the runners to take over, because what we planted, all those currently horrible looking plants, are woolly thyme. And the plan is that would be a lawn substitute. So that will completely cover the ground on both sides of the sidewalk. And we didn't want the vine to have a chance to get its runners under the thyme and take over, climb up the ginkgo tree and just, essentially take over the village. So our plan was to just direct all of its energy upward by binding it in with those cuffs.
And when it gets to the top, it's going to go over the other side of the fence. How do you?
Yeah, it'll go over the other side. It's a woody vine, so it'll want to climb over the other side. And then, that's essentially what's going to help hold it onto the wall as well. So we'll just keep that very trimmed. You can trim it with essentially hedge trimmers, and they're a vine that you can trim at all times of the year. So it's not like something you have to let overwhelm you and then you can trim it back. So the plan is it would be, a green carpet on both sides of that.
Anyone have any questions about this?
Does this need site plan approval, I guess is the question, or does it just need a building permit?
So that was the other goal of Darren coming tonight, is this subject to an amendment to an existing site plan.
And
I think that's a call for the building inspector myself, but as I remember, the other hot tub, the reason we got involved was because it was within the setbacks, I think.
That's correct, John.
Yeah, so by itself, this doesn't seem to rise to the level of site plan, but I guess that's not our call.
My read was also the square footage limitation was the 250 square foot and under wasn't subject to. I don't know if that's relevant in this case.
Yeah,
So he's applying for, a permit for the two, the shower and the hot tub. And we'll see whether the zoning enforcement officer is happy or he wants it to come to the planning board, or just to make that decision. But, I agree.
So Justin also had a question. Would the board consider this based on the provisions in the historic overlay district if the proposed hot tub and outdoor shower is a major alteration or improvement?
I don't think so. Doesn't,
Yeah,
the two pretty small shower isn't even,
Because if you look at letter C, John,
yeah.
What section are you in, Ryan?
chapter 120, section 39, letter C.
Yeah. So it's the zoning enforcement officer's call according to this, but I guess we can advise them as whether we think it's major or minor.
But I read over 250 square feet. Is that not what defines major? Mid paragraph
Oh,
there.
that's where you got the 250. I'm trying to read.
That's where I got
it
the
now.
250, yeah.
Yeah, I was
Second
looking at a different section.
yeah.
Yeah, I just, to me, if it's not visible from the street, we shouldn't be involved.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree with John. Well, you could, Brian, you could tell the zoning enforcement officer, we don't have a problem with this and the size of it, unless he thinks we should. We don't really think this concerns us. And the
I agree. If it's not visible from the street, most of the things we would be concerned about in the historic district would be anything that would be visible from the street. I don't see that this would be visible from the street, given the structures that have been erected there already.
And Darren, I guess the idea is that this is portable in the sense that there's a septic problem down the line. This could be moved.
Yeah, for sure. And they both respect the existing septic system, so they're not on the septic. The grassed area is the septic there, which works well because we're trying to maintain that portion of the yard as, a lawn, if you will, a true place to, run around and play and have dogs run around. So.
Yeah, that's one thing that, I think David asked at one point, what suggestions we might have for the historic preservation section. And that's one thing that a lot of codes have, and this one doesn't, is that it explicitly says if it's not visible from the public street or sidewalk, it's not in the planning board's purview. So if you want to put a screen porch off the back of a building and you can't see it from the street, it doesn't need us. And that's not in there now that I can find. So that's something we could consider in the next go round.
You want to send that to Lydia, any comments that anyone has about things we feel are missing in the code, if we could send, a copy of your comments to Lydia and Tim. So we can, because they're going to be talking about modifying the code down the line the next year with the comp plan committee. All right, so I don't think, Darren, you have to come back unless the zoning enforcement has a problem with it. I don't think any other board members have any problem with it.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. I wanted to reverse the process this time and just make sure we ran it by before we went in. So thank you.
Very good.
Okay. Look, I saw they painted it white. It's all white.
Yeah.
Any color on it anywhere, like the window shades or something?
It's a pretty utilitarian building, so we're just trying to, keep it fairly nondescript except for its architecture. So I'm hoping the white will tone down a little bit in sheen. It's actually a low luster, but it's reading pretty shiny at the moment. And I don't think it's just the southern exposure. So I'm hoping with a little age, it's gonna tone down a bit, get a little more chalky. And a lot
It
more.
looks a lot better than it used to, and
Absolutely.
I'm happy that it was saved because a lot of people would have said that that was too far gone.
It was some work, so I appreciate that. And yeah, the adaptive reuse thing really helps. I mean, it gives you a reason to invest in a building like that. So appreciate
Take on
that.
a few more carriage houses in the village. They need the help.
I wish there were more. These funky buildings are interesting too. There's just a lot of houses and not as many carriage houses and barns. Thank you.
I was looking for a carriage house that you could subdivide off and make it into a house, and that way you'd have an excuse to save it.
Yeah.
You say you got to deal with setbacks and street frontages and things like that, so it makes it hard.
Yeah. It's funny because you always find them like in front of the houses too. They typically are very awkwardly sited, like ours is, just right up to the road because they were the utility building. So, you have to take a leap and say you want to live that close to the road. But I think we solved to it with what we did inside and keep the road noise at one side and the private in the back. So appreciate that.
Okay, so we have 2 sets of minutes. We're making some progress there.
So Darren, sorry, Chair, Darren, Ken will be up on Thursday, so we'll have some more definitive direction guidance after Thursday.
Okay. And in the meantime, I suppose what I'll do is just amend the permit application just to say pool and outdoor shower, because I had sought the guidance on that, but it sounds like just combine the two together.
Yeah, change to hot tub and outdoor shower.
Yeah, not pool, excuse me.
It looks like that was already done from what I'm looking at here, Darren. If you
Oh,
want to
did I write
stop
it on there?
by, if you want to stop by tomorrow and just double check.
Yeah, definitely. I will do that.
Okay, Darren, I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Coming tonight. It was good to have an attorney with us, and that we actually closed this case. So thank you for your help. And we have the 2 sets of minutes. I want to thank Jeff for once again doing a brilliant job editing January 4th and January 18th. As Ryan pointed out, I chatted with him today. We didn't have meetings in February, only one in March, only having one in July and August. So perhaps by Labor Day, we'll be able to catch up. Any luck?
How do you do it, Jeff? Do you have a great memory, or do you take copious notes?
No, I watch the videos
Oh, is that right?
because I can't remember that far back.
I can't remember what last week. So I'm glad you're doing it. I really appreciate that, because it must take a lot of time.
Well, I'm glad. I thank Miranda for this.
Okay.
And it'll be less and less and less. By the end of
Yes.
the year, hopefully there'll be, no comments at all. Because
Yep.
we'll learn it. So we need a motion to approve January 4th minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it, John.
All those in favor, you just raise your hand. Aye.
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 The minutes of January 4th are approved. January 18th. We have a motion to accept the minutes of January 18th.
I'll make
I'll
that
make
motion.
that motion.
Oh,
Jeff.
Michael
I
beat me
got
to
Jeff. No,
Jeff.
I heard you first, Jeff.
Jeff.
it.
and
Okay.
he's
All
second.
right, I'll second it.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I also want to thank Suzanne for her
Yes.
spending a year with us on the planning board. I'm sorry that it didn't work out, but we did enjoy your comments and your help through this past year.
Welcome. And I learned a lot, and I appreciate the opportunity to participate in this. So anyway, I guess I'm an alternate now, though.
Right, Lydia said you're going to stay on as an alternate, so if we need help at some meetings, we have John Davidson and you, so we have 2 alternates now, which
That's
is
great.
emergencies. We've never had 2 alternates. So that's
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
very much for that.
Sorry, I couldn't continue with it. It's just like, I just don't function that well late at night. My brain shut down. I wake up very early, so.
So do I. I'm up at 5 every day,
Yeah.
but
Anyway,
10 o'clock is my bedtime, so we're running out of time as we
Yes.
speak. But Okay, anybody have any other questions, comments about anything in the village?
I do.
What was that, Ryan?
That was me, Chair.
Okay,
So I'm gonna share my screen. So those watching, even though it says on Google Maps 24 South Street, Google is incorrect. This is actually 21 South Street. They have submitted a fence permit application. This picture is quite old. This is from 2012, but for the most part is existing conditions beyond, I think, some heavier landscaping that exists right now. The fence application is to replace the existing split rail fence that, according to the new owner, is in poor condition, and they are proposing a picket fence 36 inches high.
That's great.
that's
I
good.
never liked split rail in the village. Split rails are a country fence, not a village fence. But as long as the picket fence is painted, and we can't actually require it, but I would strongly recommend that it's painted because the raw wood ones look really bad after they weather. But yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I don't think they need a permit for a 36-inch fence, do they? Or they need a permit, but they don't need site plan approval.
They don't need site plan approval. I'm just bringing this to the board's attention.
Shouldn't be vinyl.
I was about to say it's a
I
wooden
mean,
picket
I've
fence.
seen vinyl picket.
No, Mike, according to their application, it is cedar.
Good.
Cedar spaced picket fence. It does say natural.
Yeah. Well, if it's cedar, they're probably not going to paint it, but you know,
So
I think that's a shortage in the code. We should ask for painted stuff because historically you don't see unfinished wood. But there's nothing in the code that requires it to be painted, I don't think.
Add that to your notes for Lydia and Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll look nicer.
I can get more confirmation. The fence company is Adams Fence out of Poughkeepsie. They're a very well-established company, very professional, and I can get some further detail on the picket fence, the style, the color pattern, you know, that's being proposed.
That's great. So there's new owners for this house. A planning board member used to live there.
Yes,
There's an architect. I can't remember his name right now.
the former owner was Nyler, I believe that's how you pronounce the last name.
Eric.
Yes, and now the new owner is Mr. Costello, so.
All right. Well, that's good. I have something if you're finished.
All done. Take it away, John.
Just north of Montgomery Road, the skateboard business put up a sign on the corner of the house there. That's next to the driveway going back to their building.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And it's a pretty ugly looking sign. Certainly doesn't fit within a historic district.
So this is the building that's connected to the Delamater house?
Yes, right on the
Okay.
corner where they have all that seagrass. They put up a sign that's made out of former skateboards, it looks like, in various colors, and says, you know, skate business down the alley or whatever, with a sign with an arrow. And I think it's something that we wouldn't approve normally. And so they shouldn't be allowed to put it up without approval.
I will make the zoning officer aware and see if we can get some photos of it up.
I took a
because-
photo if you want me to email it to you. It's
Yes,
on my
if you
phone.
can email it from your memory, John, is this something that stays up all the time, or do they put it out when they open and then take it in when they're closed?
No, that looks like it's in the ground. This is a Looks like a permanent structure. I'm not even sure it's on Piper's property. It could be on the.
It looks to me like it's on the Delamater House property.
Yeah, but we don't know where the property line is there. So it's from an art teacher's viewpoint, I think it's creative. From a historic, it's pretty ugly, and it's didn't come in for approval. They just threw it up there, and I understand they're trying to establish a business and they're young kids, but the law is the law.
Yeah, they put a fence, a bench up near their front door that's made out of skateboards, and I thought that was creative. And even though it partially blocks the sidewalk, that's not a real busy sidewalk, so I could live with that. But the one when they put it out on the street next to the crosswalk in the historic district, I just don't. In front of the other historic building, it just doesn't seem right.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right, there's a month till the next meeting.
What happened? No, I got a question. What happened with the person on the bottom end of South Street there that was coming in with windows? Right past the gables?
Yeah.
They were supplied with the site plan application, and they have not come back yet. So I don't know if they're sort of lost in the forest within the application and may have questions. I don't know.
We don't
That
want
might
to.
be
We don't
their
want to
going
get them
out.
lost.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm waiting for the Gables to come back to you guys because they want to put mini split systems, and I gave them a site plan application, and they have yet to return with a complete.
Beginning to hate those mini split systems.
I know.
Well, if you looked at the mayor's message tonight, and they've revised the fee structure for building permits, and I looked at it, and it's basically they want money for everything that you do your house in and out. I mean, it's 5 pages of single spaced. You do this, we get a fee. It's very intensive. I was like, oh my God.
What if I
They
mow my
didn't miss
lawn?
anything.
What if that's where you mow your lawn? But no, wait a minute, routine maintenance is usually not part of that. Like, painting and fixing things up and.
I was really happy that we didn't have a fight with Josh about the siding. Because at the end of the process, it would have been tough to say, no, we're not allowing you to put plastic shakes on that building.
I have one last thing, Chair, now that all the board is here. So as some of you might remember, last month, we had sign applications from Nuvance and Northern Dutchess Hospital. I feel we've opened up a mini floodgate because we have 3 more. One is for the Women's Health Annex on Montgomery Street, and then another deals with the thrift shop. From what they're proposing with the thrift shop, they actually want to cover up the thrift shop and leave a blank sign.
Is it not, it's been closed since COVID. Is it open again?
I don't have any current information on that, Chair, but I'm more addressing their proposal to leave a blank sign on Montgomery Street. And I don't believe that, I don't think you guys would you even consider that?
Well, we're letting the farm stand have a blank sign out on the street holding that space.
Well, technically nothing's open, but I won't split hairs with you, Mr. Chair. This is.
That's been a blank sign for what, 3 or 4 years?
Yes.
Yeah, but it was Hobson's sign that Bender wanted to keep, and Fenton basically said you take it down, and that went a long while, and he made it blank.
They made it blank, and they've got the blank sign sitting out on Route 9 for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know. Ryan, let them submit, the application and we'll talk about it.
yeah.
All right. I just,
I don't know if a blank sign offends me, and maybe it's not even a definition of, it doesn't meet the definition of a sign if it doesn't have any text.
I just thought there was something in the sign law that says you can't take a sign that was conforming and then turn it into a prohibited sign.
Yeah, we'll take a look when we see the application and see what we think.
And then my other question is, because the hospital is technically not in its own district, any changes, being that it's in the residential district, would require a variance unless a variance was already acquired for that particular sign?
Well, if they're taking it away, you don't have a reverse variance.
Why don't you send out
Approval.
and we have a month to look at it and we'll see what they're asking for.
Right, because I mean, this is more addressing the women's health annex sign. I mean, if Health Quest acquired the variance, then the variance should go with the sign, being that it's just a change of ownership.
Yeah, as long as they don't make it bigger or
No,
taller
they're just changing the wording.
yeah, then it's consistent with the variance, because the variance, I'm sure, is for the number and size of signs and things like that.
Okay, just something to look forward to in August, whatever it's going to be, whether we're going to be on Zoom or we're going to be in person.
All right, so we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Hey, Suzanne, all right.
I'll second it. All those in favor, raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
4 weeks, stay safe, and we'll see everybody before the fair.